Angles and Triangles, Review and Practice, Florida Virtual 5.03. Go over starting with types of angles. So we're looking at what are the measures, and I would like you to draw an example. So we know that right angles are always equal to 90 degrees. And if you don't have a protractor, then all you need is a index card or a sheet of paper, something that has a corner. These are going to give you 90-degree angles. And we can add arrows here for our rays. And when you see that little box in the corner, that indicates that it is a right angle. The next angle we have is a straight angle, and straight angles are equal to 180 degrees. And again, using that same index card, or if you have a ruler, protractor, we're just going to draw a straight line. The next one is an acute angle, and acute angles are less than 90 degrees. And so when we look at our right angle, we know that it has to be smaller. And the last one is obtuse. So an obtuse angle, or all obtuse angles, are going to be greater than 90 degrees. So we're looking at greater than 90 degrees. Again, if we take our index card, we make that straight line. We want to just take an angle that to the left, so that that angle is larger than 90. And this is also going to help us classify triangles. Now when we're looking at special pairs of angles, the first special pair we have here is complementary. And complementary angles are two angles with a sum of, and you can see here, 90 degrees. So if we're trying to find what the angle that is missing, all we need to do is take 90 degrees minus the 35 degrees to find our missing angle. And when you subtract, you get 55. So this angle missing measure is 55 degrees. The second special pair are called supplementary angles. And supplementary angles are two angles with a sum of, you can see here, they join together and they equal 180 degrees. So just like the complementary pair, we can take these two angles, what the sum would be at 180 here, and we're going to subtract 60, which is what this angle is. So 180 minus 60, 8, is going to give us 120 degrees. Now this 120 degrees, notice, is an obtuse angle, so that makes sense. And if at any time you need to pause the video, go ahead so that you can catch up taking the notes. All right, so the next section we have congruent. Now congruent is our geometry term where we have angles with the same or equivalent measures. Meaning angle A is equal to angle B because both equal 90 degrees. When we have vertical angles, these angles we're going to find out are congruent. So when we're looking at congruent angles here, we know that 1 is equal to 4. And then we're going to use this little wave over top. So even over here, we can say A is congruent to B because 90 is equal to 90. on the bottom. So what does it look like? Part of what you have to do on your activity is write an equation to solve, to find the missing measure. And then also find the missing measure. So right here we have Elena and Diego, and they're both looking at this figure. And they're not sure who's right. So let's figure out who's got the right idea. We know that we have a straight angle here, and we have three angles that combine to make up that straight angle, which is 180 degrees. So Elena says she's going to take 35 plus the W plus the 41 to equal 180 degrees. Diego says, well, if I take 35 plus W, that's going to equal the 180. But he's forgetting this piece. So Elena is actually the one that's correct. So let's find out what is that missing measure. So we're going to take 35 plus the W plus the 41 is equal to 180. So let's combine our like terms. Let's combine the 35 plus the 41. 5 and 1 is 6. 4 and 3 is 7. So this is 76 plus W is equal to 180. So we have a one-step equation. We just want to take the 76 away from the 180. Now, if you want to be sure and you're still kind of questioning whether or not you're getting these right, I don't mind if you use a calculator. So just remember, you're putting in the 180 and you're taking away the 76. And this makes sense. It's 104 degrees. This angle here is an obtuse angle. So anytime you're answering these questions, I want you to ask yourself, does it make sense? So those cancel out. We know that W is equal to 104 degrees. Okay. All right, next page. So again, how do we set up these equations? We're going to do two more just so that you can see what are different ways we can look at these problems. So again, at the top we have Elena and Diego. Elena says this is 2W plus 35 equals 90, but Diego says, no, I'm just going to take W plus the 35 will give me 90. So it told us in the directions that this is to be assumed that it's a 90-degree angle, which is why they both have it's equal to 90. But we have this W and another W, and this 35 and this angle here, well, they're congruent because they're vertical angles. So when we're looking at Elena and Diego, Elena is actually correct because we have that W plus the vertical angle of 35, and that second W is equal to 90 degrees. Combine our like terms, 2W plus 35 equals 90. And then we can go ahead and solve this. It's a two-step equation. So the first step is subtracting that 35 from both sides. 90 minus 35 gives us 55. What we're left is 2W, bring it down. 2 times W, the opposite of multiplying, remember, is dividing by 2. So half of 55. I have it somewhere. It's like 27 and a half. Yep, 27 and a half. So this angle is 27 and a half each individually. And if we go back, we can work it backwards. Remember to check your answer. We can take 27, 2 times 27.5, add the 35. Does it equal 90? Well, yes it will. And last one, number 5. So Elena says that if you add W plus 148, you get 180. Diego says, well, if you take X plus 90, you get 148. Who's right? So let's take a look at Elena. She says W plus 148. So these two together. So just so I can get rid of all of that extra information that might not be needed to figure out this problem, I'm going to put my index card right here. Now I notice this is W, this is 148. It all lies on a straight line. Elena is correct. Good job, Elena. Which means Diego's wrong, right? Well, let's see. So Diego is saying X plus 90, meaning these two angles here, is equal to 148, this one here. So we have X plus the 90 degrees, meaning this angle here. And that is, he's saying, is equal to this angle here. So let's do a little. This one's a little harder to see. So I'm going to highlight over those two lines. And then maybe just to make it a little bit easier. He's saying this is equal, this angle combined is equal to this angle. And we have this X. They are equal. So Diego is also right. Both of them get a gold star. So be careful when you're looking at these, not just where you're having supplementary angles, complementary angles, or let's say all the angles that lie on a straight line, like just the W and the 148 here. We also need to look at these vertical angles. And you'll notice here, this vertical angle, that little line right there makes it a little confusing because it's kind of that extra little line that we don't need to even look at for Diego's answer. But these are vertical. And if you can highlight maybe where they cross, like an X, those opposite sides are going to be equivalent or congruent. All right. So let's calculate the measure down here. We're not going to do this one. So down here it says to calculate the measure. Now again, I'm going to take my index card and I need to find the unknown measure of the angle. So if you're having to do an answer where you have to explain or show your work, we're looking at, this is a straight angle that's 180 degrees. So I know that W plus the 124 is equal to 180 degrees. Give you a moment to think about that. So to find our missing measure, did you subtract? So I'm going to subtract 124 from the left, subtract 124 from the right. So our missing angle measure, now when I look at this, it's an acute angle. So when I subtract, I know that this answer should be less than 90 degrees, and it is. And if I'm estimating the angle measure, this is about 60 degrees, so it looks right. Let's try number 2. So again, we're finding that missing measure, and how do you set up this equation? So I'll set it up down here. I know that, again, I have a straight angle. It's 180 degrees. So we have 52 plus B plus 23. Those three angles, the sum will be equal to 180 degrees. Now let's combine our like terms. 52 plus 23 gives us 75. Plus B equals 180. And then we end up with a one-step equation. So subtract your 75 from the left, subtract it from the right, so that B equals 180 minus 75, This is an acute angle. No, excuse me, this is an obtuse angle. Opposite. So it is 105, and that makes sense. And it's not that much bigger than a 90-degree angle. Look at this. So I know it shouldn't be like way over 100, but it should be pretty close. And the last part here on our triangle. So we went over the different types of angles. And when we classify their triangles by their angles, we're looking at special angles here. So this first one, if I classify it by its angles, then I'm looking at 3 acute angles. So this is an acute triangle. They all have acute angles. The second one has this one right angle. So this is a right triangle. And the last one, it has 2 acute, but it has this one obtuse. So this is an obtuse triangle. And neat little trick. So I'm going to use this. The angle measures in a triangle. I'm just going to cut myself a triangle right there. How do we know how many degrees are in a triangle? That's not perfectly straight, but we'll go with it. If I tear off the corners of this triangle, I can do something really cool here and piece it together like a puzzle. And notice those 3 angles together make a straight line. So every triangle you'll ever find is the sum of the interior angles is 180 degrees. So when you're looking at problems where you have to find the missing measure inside of a triangle, we're going to find the sum of the 2 sides and then subtract that from 180 degrees to find our missing measure. So we have 71 plus the 45 plus x gives us 180 degrees. Let's simplify that. 71 and 45 is going to give us 116. And then the second step here is we're just going to subtract it. Remember, we're going to take it away from both sides, leaves us x. Now, when I subtract this, notice this is an acute angle. This is not obtuse. I should get a number that's smaller than 90 degrees, and I do. It's 64. I can check this by going back and adding 64 plus 71 plus 45, and it'll give me 180 degrees. Let's try the next one. It's missing a number. So we have 49x in this. Do you remember what this is? Well, that's a right angle. It means it's 90 degrees. So we actually have the 2 measures and then the one that's missing. So when we go to set this up, we have 49 plus the 90 plus x equals 180. Add 49 and 90 together. 139 plus the x equals 180. Subtract your 139 from both sides. Is it going to be acute or obtuse? Is it over 90? Under 90? Can it be equal to 90? I don't think so. That would only be 2 sides. The third side wouldn't join, would it? So when you subtract, you get 41. So this angle is 41 degrees. And if you go back through and you add 41 and 49 is 100. Oh, 90. And then you have the 90 here. And bada bing, bada boom, you got your answer. All right. And if you have any questions, please catch me on the Zoom. Last page. So it's asking for you to find the measure of angle B in the figure. Let me slide this over here. So when you're finding this missing measure of angle B, we have a couple things going on. So we're finding this missing measure of angle A, and this is one of the interior angles in this triangle. So we're going to do just what we did. We have 25, 25, and A. So we're going to take 25 plus 25 plus A is equal to, interior angles are equal to 180. Combine your like terms. 25 and 25 is 50. And then subtract your 50 from both sides. And I'm running out of space here. So 180, take away 50. Notice, again, this is an obtuse angle. So we know that our answer is going to be greater than 90. So A is equal to 130. The second step here is we have to use prior knowledge about vertical angles. And we know that vertical angles are congruent. So I know that A is 130, which means B is 130. So angle B is equal to 130. So it's 130 degrees. Lastly, sides of a triangle. Now there's a rule because you can't just throw any three side lengths together and then have a triangle. It just doesn't work that way. If you go on to the Open Up website right here, there's a link for you. You'll be able to kind of manipulate and see what works, or you could even take like Legos or whatever you and see what kind of sides will make a triangle and test it out yourself. So when we're looking at the sides, if I have three sides that are equal, then I have an equilateral triangle. And if I have two sides that are the same size and the third side is different, then this is called an isosceles. And the last one. So this is where no sides are congruent. And this is called a scaling. Oops. Sorry about that. So when we're looking at creating a triangle, we're going to take the short side plus the short side, and that has to be greater than the long side, because if we're trying to make a triangle and the sides, let me give some time. It's a horrible example, but I'm trying to make a triangle. If two of the sides, let's say I'm taking the pen caps, this is really impromptu, and the two short sides aren't long enough, they're gonna collapse. So I have to have, and notice these pens, they're shorter than this side, this long purple one. They have to, the two short sides have to be greater than the longest side. So when we're looking at this rule, this is what we're actually using as our reasoning. And again, you can go right there and you can try it out yourself with lots of different side lengths. And I think you can even create your own. So let's take a look at A. So we have 3, 4, and 8. So 8 is the long side. We're going to take 3 plus 4. Is that greater than 8? Well, 3 plus 4 is 7. Is that greater than 8? Well, this is a false statement, so it doesn't work. B, 7 plus 6, is that greater than 12? 7 plus 6 is 13. That is greater than 12. So this is true. So it gets a star. It does create a triangle. Next one, 5 plus 11, is that greater than 13? Now these all give you them in order, the two short sides and the long side. You have to watch out on any quizzes or whatever you're working on to make sure that they're not mixing them up. So two short sides, is it greater than the long side? 5 plus 11 is 16. That is greater than 13. So this is true. C works. D, 4 plus 6. Is it greater than 12? 4 plus 6 is 10. Is that greater than 12? No. So this one doesn't work. And last one. So if I have 4 plus 6, is that greater than 10? Is 10 greater than 10? No. So this doesn't work also. So, and why doesn't this work? Well, just like the lengths, like when I have two pens, I'll choose one that is the same. These are the same exact length. There's no way I can cut that in half. It's still going to fall and they won't meet at a peak at all. So just be careful on this last one. Just because 10 is equal to 10 doesn't make it greater than. There's not an equal to sign. So don't forget about those inequalities. If you want any more help, email me, message me, join my Zoom, and good luck. Bye.